Choo choo, baby. Let's go all the way back to Speculation Station because we have ourselves a conversation to have about a Buffalo Sabres superstar who does need a new contract. Today we're talking about Alex Tuch, a guy who is 29 years old. Contract goes on till the end of this season, making $4.75 million a year. You're probably familiar with Alex Tuch to some extent if you've been following the Golden Knights or the Minnesota Wild or the Sabres over the past few years. He played for all of these teams at some point, but his days in Vegas were really the coming out party for Tuch as an NHLer full-time, before getting sent over to Buffalo, his hometown team, and posting up an over point-per-game season 3 years ago. This year, Alex Tuch is at 48 points in 57 games played as a speedy winger with a great sniping ability, and he is on pace for about 68 points on the year. It's been an up-and-down season for Buffalo. They weren't really all too hot, and then they got super hot, and now everything is looking really, really good. But Alex Tuch still needs a contract, and the fact that he's only making $4.75 on his deal right now at 29 years old opens a very, very likely possibility that he ends up going for a really big dollar amount on his next contract. With that said, the Buffalo Sabres have not signed him, yet or otherwise, which allows us to talk about the idea of Tuch going over to some other NHL team, just like what was talked about on 98.5 Sports FM. Take a look at this Stéphane Waite audio hit. Is Alex Tuch the ideal winger to play with Cole Caufield and Nick Suzuki in Montreal? This will be linked in the description, and you can go out there and read just exactly the short summary of the audio hit is. It's in French, by the way, if you couldn't already tell. Canada lost to the U.S. in men's ice hockey finals at the Olympic Games. Montreal will be back in action on Thursday against the Islanders. Listen to Stéphane Waite comment on the hockey final and the players who could help the Canadiens at the end of the season on Mario Langlois' show, Les Amateurs de Sport. There is a conversation on these guys over here: Vinny Trocheck, Ryan O'Reilly, Dougie Hamilton, Jordan Binnington, and Alex Tuch. Would Tuch be the ideal complement to Suzuki and Caufield? Now, this is literally just a summary as to what's talked about in the audio hit, so let's go over to an article posted on HabsFanatics.com by Elias Edmondson that just gives a little bit of a summary as to what is talked about on the show. Alex Tuch is seen as a perfect winger for Suzuki and Caufield, but the Sabres' stance makes a trade complex. Let's go out there and read now, shall we? Stéphane Waite believes the Sabres have the perfect winger for the Habs' top line. That fit could very well be found within their division, namely with the Buffalo Sabres. As mentioned on 98.5 Sports by former Canadiens goaltending coach Stéphane Waite, the Sabres have the ideal player in their lineup. It's Alex Tuch, who would be the perfect winger to play alongside of Suzuki and Caufield. Beyond the fact that Tuch's younger brother Luke is already in the Canadiens organization, Alex is a complete player who would fit well into Martin St. Louis' style of play. He can bring both offense and grit. That's exactly what Kent Hughes seems to be looking for in the trade market. The issue here is whether Tuch is truly available on this said market. The Buffalo Sabres are currently enjoying an excellent season and could, for the first time in 15 years, qualify for the playoffs. Moving Tuch under those circumstances could be detrimental to their plan of reaching the postseason. Everything could depend on the return for the 29-year-old winger. What could tilt things in favor of Hughes and Gordon is that the Sabres are currently unable to agree on terms on a new contract with Tuch. According to Draeger, Tuch is reportedly seeking a deal more lucrative than the one that Adrian Kempe signed, an 8-year, $85 million contract with a $10.63 million AAV. The organization's new GM, Jarmo Kekalainen, does not appear thrilled with those demands. This isn't the first time that Tuch's name has been linked to the Habs, as Marco D'Amico wrote in an article back in January that an NHL source said the Montreal Canadiens could be interested in Tuch. So with all that said, I mean, that was just a lot of words on a screen that we just read, but if Buffalo is a little insecure on their ability to actually retain Tuch, Does a trade to Montreal make sense where Montreal sends over a guy that has a little bit extra term on his contract, thus allowing Buffalo to maintain some level of value past this year? If you head over to the Sabres, you can see they've got $5.8 million of current cap space, and they do have some guys they will need to re-sign. Tuch, of course, pending UFA. That's a pretty dangerous situation. Peyton Krebs needs a deal, so does Zach Benson. Beck Malenstein is a UFA as well, although I don't really know if they're really super desperate to keep him. And then as you scroll down, you'll see some other guys. Michael Kesselring is a young-ish kind of defenseman. He's an RFA as well. So there definitely is some money that needs to be spent here on behalf of the Buffalo Sabres. If they're not confident that Tuch is going to be able to stick around and they could give him the deal that he wants, then maybe Montreal could help him out in that way by sending over an asset that has term. Let's head over to the Montreal Canadiens and try to see what kind of names could fit over here. Obviously, there are the big dogs, the Suzukis, the Caufields, the Slavkovskis. Obviously, we're not seeing those guys get traded over to Buffalo. But a lot of these guys do have an extra contract year on their books here. Jake Evans, Alexandre Texier, you've got Josh Anderson and Philippe Deneau and Gallagher, all the oldies on Montreal. And then a lot of defensemen here are locked up too. Hudson till 2034, Matheson 2031, Gooley 2031, Dobson 2033. Even Carrier and Struble are on the books till next year. It's only Arber Xhekaj who needs a contract. So there are a number of guys that I could think Buffalo would see value in if you wanted to guarantee you're going to be able to keep a player for next year. I mean, if you're thinking stylistically, think about a guy who's speedy, who plays down the wing, who can just snipe it on the rush. I think of a guy like Josh Anderson, for example. Not saying that Josh Anderson for Alex Tuch is a fair trade. You would need to add a lot more if you were Montreal. But what I am saying is the value that Tuch brings, you're kind of getting a discount Tuch with Josh Anderson with an extra year attached to the deal. Now I say discount Alex Tuch when Josh Anderson is making $700,000 more than Tuch is AAV-wise. Obviously, that disparity is not fair at all. Tuch has been a very good player compared to Josh Anderson. But stylistically, that's kind of where I'm looking at it instead. What kind of player could the Sabres get that would replace the sort of role that Tuch has? I would honestly think that Josh Anderson is the closest fit there, without touching any of the top dudes that Montreal Canadiens fans would absolutely be terrified to see get traded. So with that in mind, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. With the latest conversation on 98.5 radio about Tuch being the ideal winger to play with Caufield and Suzuki, and with the extra conversations back in January from RG.org saying that Montreal could potentially be a destination for Tuch, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about this idea? Does it make sense in your mind? Is this a possibility? What do you think? And how do you think Tuch could play with Suzuki and Caufield? The entire idea is he would be a first-line winger with those two. I'd say that he brings the speed, he brings a lot of skill. He would have a lot more confidence, I would say, than Juraj Slavkovsky playing with those two, especially since Tuch is the oldest amongst the bunch, which could help him out very much so. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Is this an idea worth exploring for Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton, and do you think it's actually possible? I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.